I made a moose. It's up above my door. Stay tuned and see how I made it. I began by tracing the templates onto the boards. These templates can be found on my website, and there'll be a link to my website down below. For the Moosehead, I glued two 3/4 inch boards together to get the 1.5 inch thickness. I then cut out the template using my bandsaw. I cut out the antlers and the mounting plaque using the bandsaw. You could also use a jigsaw to cut these pieces out. I recently added this tabletop belt sander to my small shop. It's been great. I wish I'd have bought one years ago. As I show here, it's easy to clean up the cuts I've made. And it's great to do those inside curves. I believe in hand sanding. I always start with a 120 grit, move up to a 220, and in this case I'm finishing off with a 320 grit. Other instances, like for furniture, I'd move on up to a 420. I could have used my router to round off the edges of the mounting plaque, but instead I used a sanding block. Now I didn't want to get all of the saw marks off of the moose because that gives it character, but there are a little bit too many saw marks inside the curve underneath his chin area, so I used files to get rid of those marks. I dry fitted the moose parts together, and then I marked where I wanted to drill the holes for the dowel that holds the antlers on the moose body. Now I didn't like how the antlers were fitting on the moose head. There was a gap. So I decided to use a chisel and make that area nice and flat so the antlers would fit on properly. I do have a full-size drill press in my shop. Actually, it's on wheels, so it makes it easy to move it about. I drilled a 3/8 inch hole, approximately 1/2 inches deep, using my drill press. Now this clearly shows I need a jig for my drill press. So don't be surprised if you see a future video on constructing a jig for a drill press. Since I don't have a jig for my drill press, I drilled the hole in the moose's head using my hand drill. This is a 3/8 inch hole that's 1/2 inch deep. I cut the dowel to length. The antlers are dry fitted onto the moose head. Three-eighth inch holes are drilled into the mounting plaque. These holes will be used to mount the completed moose up on the wall. We countersink those holes on the front of the mounting plaque. I now determine where to drill the holes that will mount the moose head onto the plaque. My plans will provide the location for these holes. The holes are drilled with a hand drill. We now countersink those holes on the back of the plaque. My moose is made of poplar, and I've decided to finish it with a walnut stain. Minwax recommends a pre-stained wood conditioner be applied. After 10 minutes, I wipe off the excess. You now have a window of 2 hours to apply the stain. I am applying a walnut penetrating stain. I let it penetrate into the wood for 10 minutes and then I wipe off with a clean cloth. I forgot to give my moose eyes. I marked the location on both sides of the moose head. The eyes are drilled using a 1/2 inch drill bit. I am so very careful here because I did not want to ruin my project, so I went really slow. The holes are no more than 1/4 inch deep. The eyes are darkened using the penetrating stain. I forgot to record the mounting of the moose head onto the plaque, but here I show gluing the antlers onto the moose head using the 3/8 inch dowel. I decided to give my moose a low gloss sheen using tung oil. After drying overnight, I lightly rub the moose with steel wool. Wipe it clean. I apply a second coat of tung oil. This is the completed moose. Notice the saw marks on the antlers, how it gives it some character. Here's another view of the moose. You know, that walnut stain looks good and the tung oil gives it just enough sheen. Here it is mounted above the door that leads to my garage. I think it looks really good.